Welcome to Curito Connects. I'm your host, Jenn, and I've been conversing with friends around the world about life challenges and impactful moments. Conversations on this platform look at answering the questions, how we overcome challenges, and how our experiences shape who we are and the work we do today. I hope this work can inspire you on your own personal and individual journey. Let's dive right in. Hello, my guest today is Icy Liu, a high school friend of mine back here in Taipei at Taipei American School. Icy is a breast cancer survivor, an ex-Wall Street banker, and now a wine professional working for Becky Wasserman in Burgundy, and hosts her podcast Ungrafted, which is about wine, humanity, the planet, and most recently started the Asian Wine Professionals. Hi, Icy.
Hi, Jen. Very nice to be here. Being on the other side is kind of weird, but I'm excited to chat with you.
Well, I'm very glad that you agreed to participate in my podcast. This is actually my first time doing it in person with someone because usually it's all virtual. So I guess we can just start off by talking about how my impression of Icy actually from high school, she's 3 years above me from school, but she was very intimidating. I think all the underclassmen were very scared of her. She had a presence. So when I reconnected with her earlier this year, I was very surprised how much we were able to relate and connect. And I think that's the beauty of re-examining your preconceptions of individuals, you know, especially in high school and college and different parts of your life, and giving that space to reconnect with others and realizing that you actually are more alike than you might have thought, because as humans we change. So I guess I'll let Icy dig deeper into that conversations where I started by saying, you know, I was quite surprised because I had a stigma of what Icy was like. But then I learned about her battle with breast cancer, about her shift in her career, you know, moving from Taiwan to New York to then France. You know, learning a new language, being in a new environment, having a long distance marriage, you know, all these very amazing things. So, yeah, I'll let you start with that.
Do you want to start from Taipei or?
Yeah, we can go from Taipei. You know, okay. What was Icy like growing up here, and then how you went off to Columbia, your time at Columbia, and then,
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Taipei, Taiwan, and I went to Taipei American School. I would say it's a really great school academically, but I would say that we were, I mean, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think I was definitely very sheltered, and I had my group of friends, my clique, and I was very happy to be where I was, and I didn't really feel the need to, you know, make new friends or anything. I was just very happy with where I was. And I would say that when I went to college in New York City, I was still a little bit similar. And when now thinking back, I wish I was more open-minded and, you know, tried to meet more people, because New York City and Columbia seemed like such a great place to meet different people. And when I was in New York at Columbia, class was really hard. I was adjusting to not living with my parents and living on my own. So the stress really got to me. And, you know, people all say, we talk about the freshman 15, right? For me, I think it was like freshman 30 or something. I'm not sure. But it was more like the binge eating and whatever.
Late nights,
studying. And so I developed an eating disorder when I was in college. And when I came back to Taipei to visit my family, I would often have lunch, or I would often have meals with my family friends. And culturally, weight is something that Chinese culture is very open to critiquing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would often get critiqued at, like, you know, how much weight I gained. And I just thought it was like the worst thing that could happen to me. I associated it with like me not doing good enough. And I was always I always did very well in school and sports, etc. So I was like, oh my God, I'm such a failure. And I had to always be perfect. And this was like part of my like imperfection. And it really impacted me even more. So it's like the eating disorder kind of just got worse. And I wanted to share that with people because I feel like at that time I didn't really have a lot of people to talk to about this. And I think at some point I did tell my parents, but I think they had like no idea what this whole world is. And, so that kind of like ebbed and went. And then, I found my first job on Wall Street and I was still very unhappy, but I didn't really know, I didn't really know what to do. So I still I got my master's in real estate finance. I moved to real estate finance, but that was also not a place where I feel like, I could see myself long term. I wasn't really passionate about what I was doing. And then the eating disorder kind of came back and I was like really focused on that, trying to like lose weight, etc., not really focusing on the main source of my problem, which is like where am I headed to, in terms of my career and what really made me happy. And then when finally I made the move into wine, which is something that, I really enjoyed. I enjoy the so many aspects of it. Actually, I find it funny, but like sometimes I talk to people like I enjoy studying wine more than I like tasting wine, actually, because there's so much of wine that involves like geography, culture, food, history. So it's like kind of my lens into the world, actually. It made me want to memorize, when I was in high school, we would like memorize maps, right? And then I would like take the exam and try to do well in the exam and then just like forget everything. But whereas like with wine, everything I study, I really want to retain. And I just I really enjoy talking about it. I enjoy studying a lot. I enjoy traveling for it and I enjoy selling it and meeting people in this industry. Because for the most part, people don't get into wine to make a fortune. Normally, it's like we never hear people saying, "Oh, I'm in wine, but like I hate it. I'm making so much money, I can't leave." That's probably not something we hear very often. So that's kind of like and then after I got into wine, like I still sometimes deal with body image issues, but my eating disorder just really went away. I also made sure that I did kind of like a media kind of, not media dump. Maybe that's the word. I'm not sure, but it's like, I used to like subscribe to like Us when I was in New York working in finance. Like I would like, subscribe to Us Weekly and all these like tabloid magazines. I really got away from a lot of that. Like I really pay attention to people I follow on Instagram too, because I don't know, like I think all these images, I really think it, at least for me, really matters. And for the people I associate myself with as well, like, we often talk about, culturally, like in Taipei and Taiwan, I love it. I have, some of my closest friends are still from when I was like growing up, but there's like a mentality about body image and the way we talk to ourselves about it and the way we talk to our friends about it. Like for me, it's not really healthy. And so I tried to...
You did a detox.
Yeah, I kind of did a detox. Thank you. And so for me, it's like I really pay attention to the way I speak to myself about it and the way I speak to myself about like my weight and what I eat and my friends as well. So, yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. But I just wanted to rewind a little bit and go back to when you mentioned earlier that when you were going through your eating disorder, you didn't really know who to speak to at the time. So did you really just not talk like, did you have any friends at college that you spoke to, or you saw counseling, or how did you end up recognizing that you were you were doing this to yourself and that this is something, like for how long did you do it for before you were like, I need help, or like I need to fix this?
Yeah, so I would say I didn't talk to any friends about it. I
Did people bring it up to you? You know, did people say, I mean, obviously we talked about the comments that people would say, oh, you look thinner, or oh, you look plumpier, or, you know, whatever terms people like to use.
Yeah. In Taiwan, they always say healthy. So, or even if they see I have like muscles, like they'll be like,
you're so fit.
Yeah. So it's like not really a good thing. But I would say I did use several therapists, but not all of them were like my style, I would say.
Right. Because therapy is shopping, or it's like a marriage. Exactly. You have to find someone that resonates with you.
Right. So someone I work with now is more spiritual, and for me that works better. And I've also been speaking to Simone, who basically I met her through you. Like,
right.
She's not helping me with like, you know, food, like eating disorder issues, but like to me, that's the kind of therapy I like. It's like more spiritual practice, etc. Yeah.
Would you have been open to that spiritual practice back then, you think? If someone had, you know, like if someone had, you know, presented that to you and say, hey, try this.
I think I would be open because I was just kind of desperate to see what worked.
Right.
But I was mostly just, you know, looking for eating disorder specific therapists, and the ones I found in New York were mostly just like very clinical, etc. And they did a lot of like making you like eat certain foods and not try to feel guilty. So it's like a lot of, I forget what it's called, but it's kind of like behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
And less spiritual. So I mean, I tried all different kinds. Like I even went to like camp like in upstate New York, like at a yoga camp with some author. I can't remember her name right now, but I read a lot of her books, and she was very famous for I should probably know her name, but
we'll put that in the link later.
Yeah. But it's just like trying to find someone that works for you.
Yeah. I think that's really important that you brought that up, because when we are encountered with these different issues or challenges that we're working through, you have to be very open to accepting different types of channels to, you know, whether it's therapy work, whether it's just trying a new hobby.
Right.
Because you never know what will resonate with you.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And then it was when I would speak to my friends or, you know, family, friends or whatever, it was mostly like when I lost weight, I would get so much like positive affirmation. Praise. And then they had like no idea what was like going behind closed doors, I guess. And then when I would gain weight, it was like all this negativity. So as a normal human being, of course, I would crave like the positivity, attention. Right? So
who wouldn't?
Right. So it's like at that time I was just like, oh, there's no one I can talk to. Like they won't understand, you know? So for me personally, like I never really comment on people's
weight.
Not to say I never comment on people's weight. Like, I don't know what's going on behind them. I also don't think it's like good affirmation, whether it's like kids or even, you know, I was, you know, I don't have kids yet, but like even like there was a New York Times article. It's like the way we talk to little girls, you know, like we often say, oh, you're so cute or whatever. Yeah. So it's like, I'm not sure whether that's
a positive or a negative.
Yeah, so it's like it's in this world, I'm sure you can't control what people say, and that's what my mom always tells me. It's like, you know, you can't control what these aunties say, and just try to change the way you deal with it. And I've been trying to do that, and it has been it has like throughout my like therapy work, it has helped. But then as like a 17, 18-year-old girl, like that was very difficult for me to deal with. So I'm slowly trying to learn, but I'm also trying to control what I put out in the world. And that's just, and honestly, that's also not something that like I really focus on. Like the first thing when I see you, it's like, have you gained weight or not? Like,
it's like, how are you doing?
Yeah, how are you doing or whatever. It's just, yeah, because of my history and because of the way that like I want other people to also not ever like have to deal with what I dealt with. Like that's kind of what I try to put out in the world.
Did your eating disorder affect the way your relationships with your friends, your colleagues, and back then, I guess when you were dating men, was that an issue as well? Like in terms of how you interacted with others?
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly just like when my friends would talk about it, it would be awkward because they don't know what I'm dealing with, and I don't know if they know what to say. I think it's just not in their mindset. So for me, I just kind of tried to avoid it. I didn't try to speak up or anything like that. With men, it's actually fine. Like, for some reason, I don't think men, at least the one, or like my husband, for example, like she never commented that I was overweight or I got chubbier or whatever. So it's like, I think it's more like a women kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like the comparison. I'm sure there are other men who do that too, but just not the ones that I'm associated with.
Right. Which also is interesting because you went from, with your eating disorder and then you transitioned to the food and wine industry.
Right.
So was that, and you mentioned earlier when you got into wine, it almost felt like your eating disorder was behind you because there was so much warmth and wealth with the whole foods you were eating, the people you were around, and people didn't talk about weight. It was just enjoyment of company and, I guess geeking out about wine because you really enjoyed that. What was that like for you when you look back?
Well, for me, it's like I'm very grateful because I feel like through wine and my passion and like I kind of just went like full steam ahead with the whole studies and everything like that. Just I didn't really have time to really think about like, oh, what did I weigh or whatever. Oh, also another thing is like throughout my therapy, like I threw away my scale. One of my therapists said that, scales are for fish, not scales belong with fish and not for humans. That's for me, like the way I know, like I would weigh myself every day. And then if I weighed more or weighed less, like that just like destroyed like
your day or your week.
Yeah. It would like destroy my day if I gained more weight. And then I would be so happy if I like lost some weight. So it's just like, it dictated my life way too much. So for me now, the way I live my life, it's like, I don't have a weight. Sometimes, oftentimes when I go to a hospital, I'll be like, don't tell me my weight. Like, I'll feel the way I feel my clothes or whatever. And
intuitively.
Intuitively. So that's just something that has helped me in my journey. And then when I, transitioned to wine, it was more like, just like, I mean, obviously there are times where we like we go out too much and then we eat or we drink, wine or whatever, but it's like the unhealthy association is not there anymore. And it's more like a healthy relationship with enjoying food, enjoying like traveling, enjoy like wine and whatnot. So it's been a very good thing for me and I'm very grateful.
So from there, then you found out you had breast cancer.
Yes.
So how has that been for you in terms of, I'm sure you kind of feel like, I've just kind of overcome this whole eating disorder journey. And now I'm, it's like being thrown another curveball with your health. How has that been for you?
It was more just, it was weird because throughout like my entire life, I've been very active with sports and I would say I'm pretty healthy. Like I was never someone to like get, colds easily or whatever. So for me, it was like, wow, my body is not invincible because, and also when I was like growing up, I studied a lot. So it was like, I never really needed a lot of sleep. Even when I was working in finance, like I always felt like I could push my body a lot. So it was kind of like my body saying, and so I was kind of surprised, like, wow, my body's like, no, you can't keep pushing myself. And, which is good. And I told you at the beginning, I was like, I don't want to talk a lot. I don't want this to be a cliche, but it is really just so true where it's like, you keep hearing people say, like, oh, you have to like care about your body. It's not just like, exercising, eating well. It's also your friends, your mental health, etc. So, but unless it happens to you for some reason, like you just don't listen.
Yeah,
so
you don't apply it.
You don't apply it. So I'm like, well, at this point, like there's no way I can't not apply it. So it's more just like that. And I feel like, I'm actually pretty grateful because, although it's not been very easy, it's still, I feel like if this didn't happen to me, I would still be like into pushing my body and be like, okay, you only need 5 hours of sleep. Why would you need 8, kind of thing.
Do you think that mindset you had from as early back as you can remember was just a person, like your own personality, you know, being a perfectionist,
yes,
really pushing yourself. No one externally was telling you like, you have to excel, you have to succeed, it was just more of somehow you just absorb that that's what you need to do.
Yeah, exactly. It was like the way I've trained my mindset my entire life since I was very little.
Right. So when you think about all that you've gone through and where you are now, what kind of advice would you give to other people who are, currently, if they're listening to this, kind of maybe experiencing either an eating disorder or discovered, I mean, we're still quite young, we're not even in our 40s yet, but, discovered that they have an ailment, whether it's I think autoimmune disease recently in the past few years have been quite common amongst people our age, actually.
Okay.
Or cancer, some more young people are getting these diseases. And like you, they probably think my body's invincible. I was always really active, very healthy. How come this is happening to me, right? Mm-hmm. What would you suggest to them in terms of how to, be more mindful about the issues that they're dealing with and taking actions to overcome it?
I would say advice. Okay.
Or what advice would you have hoped you had then that, or that you wish you would have known then that you know now?
Right. So I would say just be kinder to yourself and really pay attention to the way you speak to yourself. That's number one. I really love this podcast I recently discovered called The Art of Manliness. And there was one episode where it was the son of the guy who wrote The 7 Habits of
Highly Effective People.
Of highly effective people. And then he said, I didn't read the book, but in this, and I will, but in this podcast, in this interview, he said, for example, we often say to ourselves, I have to do this. And he suggested to say, I choose to do this. And I feel like even just like the little words that I use to talk to myself, like really affects my mood and really affects the way that I approach the world. So even just like little things like that, I'm a very big on like self-help person. So I would say the recommendations are, for me, it's like, if you feel like you're struggling through something or, like whether it's like a happy job or anything, like I'm very much for like finding therapists that work for you, talk to your friends who might know therapists that work for you, and like listen to these podcasts or read these books because,
That's
right. And then even in the same podcast, there was one, and you and I talk about James Nestor's like book called Breath, right?
Yes.
Like even the way I breathe, like I do mouth breathing sometimes. And even when I'm like, now I have like, when I was going through my breast cancer treatment, I have to go to the hospital every day. So even I was like going to the hospital every day, I'm always like tense and everything. It's like, just relax. Like, I just feel like I don't pay attention to the little things. And now because of breast cancer, I have to. So it's like the way I talk to myself, my breath, and just like, there are all these different tools. And it's up to, you through someone like you with Curito and like the people you have brought to my world, and even just the stuff that the tools that you have suggested, I'm going to apply to my life too. So I think that would be my advice.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we still have a little more time, and I would love for you to talk about your podcast and the Asian wine professionals, because I think what you're doing with both of them is so cool. I've listened to a few episodes, and I've definitely took away some new learnings. I think some of us who don't necessarily know too much about the wine industry can definitely learn through your podcast about how it's impacting, how they're, like you said, humanity, planet, wine, it's all, the ecosystem all, relies on each other. So, and then also with the Asian wine professionals, because without what you created this year, we wouldn't have that platform either.
Yeah.
Of different Asians who are in this field.
Yeah. So I think the first thing with my podcast, it was last year with the Black Lives Matter movement, the Me Too movement, and also climate change. Like all these 3 subjects really affected me tremendously. And I felt like there should be a platform where we explore these issues even more. And through me, it's through wine, because that's my industry. But if you look at some of the topics that we speak about, it's prevalent through all the different industries. So through my podcast, I've tried to hit on things like climate change and what are some things that we should start thinking about. For example, carbon emissions. Who have gone through sexism, sexual harassment, etc. So these are things that are prevalent in all different areas of our lives and other industries as well. And through Asian wine professionals, there's another group called Black wine professionals, and that they have really inspired me, because we know that minorities in certain industries are still viewed upon with prejudice. So with Asian wine professionals, for me at least, I feel like wine is not something that we grew up with. So when you tell people that you are in this industry, they often have the idea it's like, oh, it's for people who, I don't know, maybe you're drinking all day, or you don't. It's for people, at least maybe in Taiwan or China, it's like, oh, it's something that you don't need a lot of education for, and it's something that you can do without a lot of education, and you don't make a lot of money. So it's like trying to just bring these people forward to show that there is a lot of diversity, and these are really amazing people that I've come across, and
very hardworking.
Very hardworking, and it's just something that it's the wine world, the world in general is better when you have passionate people, and you don't try to view them without so much prejudice, and you try to invite people that it's like a very good industry to be in. It's not without its problems, obviously, but it's like something that other people should be aware of, that it's not just those certain industries that we grew up thinking are the best for ourselves, because it's not. And it certainly has, while it has brought me a lot of finances, brought me a lot of good things, it has also shown me that it's just not the right industry for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you have any other last sayings that you want to share?
Last sayings, I feel like it's something that I alluded to earlier, but it's like people often say, oh, the way you talk to yourself, for example, would you say the same thing to your best friend or your little sister? And oftentimes it's no. And for some reason, it's still very hard for me, but it's like getting better, that I know that it's not good for me mentally and whatnot. So that's something that I try to say to myself often.
To apply it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're often reflecting ourselves with another person as if we're talking to ourselves. That's a very important way to kind of approach when you're talking to other people, like putting a mirror in front of it.
Yeah, or for me, it's like the way I speak to myself, I would never speak that way to other people. Like, I'm very hard on myself, and I say mean things to myself. Like, I would never say these mean things to other people.
So you should also not say mean things to yourself.
Exactly. So yeah. So, but it's like, it's hard. It's like somehow it's just like I'm just so hard on myself sometimes, and it's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely have to say more encouraging things to yourself, and affirmation for who you are and the work you do, because you do amazing work.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks for sharing with us. That was very, very heartwarming, and I think a lot of people will resonate with that. And I'll add all the links that we talked about, and people can follow Ungrafted, check out your website and any other events and other Asian wine professionals. And we might be able to do an event in the future together.
I would love that. And I'm very excited to see Curito grow, and I want to make sure that I also support you, and also I want to use a lot of the things that you put forth, because they have been very helpful for me so far.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today.
Yeah. Thank
you.
Right,
thank you. That's all we have time for today. Thank you for listening to Curito Connects. For more Connects content, collaborations, and discoveries set to inspire you on your own individual journey, please head to our website at www.curito.co. Until next time, stay inspired, and thank you for joining us at Curito Connects.